Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Isaiah chapter 43. And in this chapter, God is going to really make fun of pagan worship, the utter foolishness of it. Mainly because when a person, and this goes to the fallen man, sinful man, and then the fact that God again had demonstrated Himself, especially to Israel, right? So out of all of the people who were the most foolish would have been Israel, because no other nations had God revealed to them as God had done, and that's interesting, right? So that's interesting. So then you have, so the fact that God can say, "I reveal myself through signs and wonders," right? Prophecy. Spoke the end from the beginning. So then they were still stuck on, let's make something and call it God. He said, y'all stupid, and he's going to make fun of it. He's going to make fun of it. But even the logic of paganism, right? That you can always kind of trace back the you can always trace back the paganism to people, to men, to a group of men. And hold on, Christianity, because you're not that far off. The Christian church has never gotten over Catholicism. The utter damage, psychological, spiritual, emotional, right? Um, the most Protestant churches, without kind of realizing it, practice paganism. Not paganism, but Catholicism. And not that far off, but Catholicism. This is why you wear the robes, priestly garbs, collars. That's Catholicism, which had this roots which had this roots in paganism. You ask any ministers, if you ask a minister, why do you wear minister's robe and the clergy collar? Right? Why do you? Which is what? Is it something you got from the shirt packages? But those when you unpack a shirt in the package, you pull out the little collar there. And yes, I'm being funny. But God is going to kind of make fun of this idea that, okay, you created this. Israel, 3 months after God had shown the wonders, right, crushing Egypt, bringing them through the Red Sea, right, bringing them through the Red Sea. So right there, if anyone should have said, hey, guess what? God is God. 3 months afterwards, they make a calf and bow down to worship that calf. That this calf is going to lead us back to Egypt, even though they was carrying the calf. In other words, the utter stupidity of idol worship. Now, like I say, man is still at it. They don't craft idols, but they think about the denominations that follow. Just kind of nonsense. Like, there are people that think that God is so concerned that you must be baptized in water in order to get to heaven. That's just an example of that. Anyway, let me go on, because I don't have time to get into that, and I'm going to drift off into that. Let's pick it back up. Isaiah 44. And I'll start with verse 6 again. This is what the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, says. I am the first and the last. There is no God but me. Who is like me can announce the future? Let him say so and make a case before me, since I have established an ancient people. Let these gods declare the coming things. and what would take place. They can't. I'll take one more jab. These so-called prophets today, you ever notice they never prophesy anything of substance? We just had a war start. Where were their prophecies at? Why didn't any of them see that, right? Especially the evangelical prophets, right? Why didn't they prophesy and say, hey, guess what, Israel? Better look out. Some missiles is coming your way. So again, let me get out of this. All right. Verse 8. Woo. Do not be startled or afraid. Have I not told you and declared it long ago? You are my witnesses. Is there any God but me? There is no other rock. I do not know any. And I will say the same thing. Where is any other God that can compare to the God of Israel? Okay? Where is he? Okay? All right. All who make idols are nothing, and what they treasures does not profit. Their witnesses do not see or hear anything, so they will be put to shame. Right? Their idols just that. They're nothing. You make absolutely nothing. Verse 10, who makes a god or casts a metal image for no profit? Look, all its worshippers will be put to shame, and the craftsmen are humans. They all will assemble and stand. They all will be startled and put to shame. Now, just of note, God has never instructed anyone to make an image of him, right? In fact, one of the that is why you have, I think it's the second commandment, third commandment is to make no graven images, right? Verse 12, the iron worker labors over the coals, shapes the iron with hammers, and works with his strong arm. Also he grows hungry, and his strength fails. He doesn't drink water and is faint. The woodworker stretches out a measuring line. He outlines it with the stylus. He shapes it with the chisel and outlines it with the compass. He makes it according to human likeness, like a beautiful person to dwell in the temple. He cuts down cedars. Now, remember, this is the craft image, molten image, right? He cuts down cedars for his use. Or he takes a cypress or an oak. He lets it grow strong among the trees of the forest, plants a laurel, and the rain makes it grow. It serves as fuel for the man, right? He takes some of it and warms himself, meaning the tree. He also kindles a fire and bakes bread. He even makes it into a god and worships it, right? He makes an idol. He makes an idol from it and bows down to it. He burns half of it at the fire, and he roasts meat on the half. He eats the roast, and it is satisfied. He warms himself and says, ah, I am warm. I see the blaze. He makes a god or his idol with the rest of it. He bows down to it in worship, and it's worship. He prays to it, save me, for you are my God. Such a people do not comprehend and cannot understand. In other words, y'all are stupid. You make this idol from the very tree that you bake. You make, right? It's like how, woo. And the logic, right? He says, such people do not comprehend and cannot understand, for he has shut their eyes so they cannot see, and their minds so they cannot understand. No one reflects, no one has perception or insight to say, I burn half of it in the fire, I also bake bread on its coal, I roast meat and ate. I will make something detestable with the rest of it, and I will bow down to a block of wood. He said, that's your God. That's how stupid you are. Now, religion is always stupid because it always starts with man. And I am including Christianity. I am including the denominations. You have people arguing whether or not a wafer, crackers, or bread, and wine or grape juice is the actual body of Jesus Christ. Okay? The actual body. There are people to this day, 2023, there are people who believe that when they partake of communion, that Jesus' actual body, see, is broken up and they are eating the actual body. Stupid. Verse 20. He feeds on ashes. His deceived mind has led him astray, and he cannot deliver himself or say, isn't there a lie in my right hand? Right? Like, whoo, right? Okay. So again, man, for some reason, can fall and sink to the most stupidest ways. By the way, atheists are not any different. I'm going to say this, that when you can say that nothingness, okay, that nothingness starts something. Now watch this. So in order to say there is no God, you would rather say that the universe always existed, or that it did start from nothing. Okay, just to say there is no God. Verse 21. Remember these things, Jacob and Israel, for you are my servant. I formed you. You are my servant. Israel, you will never be forgotten by me. Now, so we have seen this throughout, that God's constantly saying, yeah, I'm going to judge you, but I'm still not letting you go. But I'm going to judge you for your wickedness. And again, keep this in mind that he is talking about Israel. So again, Israel would have known this. Israel would have been able to relate to this. It would be like if we said today that let's say this. This is only an analogy. This is only an analogy, right? But let's just say you would have people that would say, I want to go and serve under I want to get rid of the government of the United States and serve under a brutal dictator like North Korea's dictator, Venezuela's dictator, Russia dictator. And you forget the Constitution of the United States. You forget the freedom, right? And you would say, I would rather live somewhere else. By the way, there are people who are doing just that. That there are people who are now saying that they would rather live in another country than America. I just can't stand America. And as bad as America is, and by the way, I'm not in any way, because I am one of the first to criticize the hypocrisy of America. And remember, by the way, remember, it is the people. The same people, show you how stupid people are, the same people that wrote the brilliance of the Constitution. Themselves, many of them were slave owners. Jefferson, who penned the great statement that we hold these truths as evident that all men are created equal and are given rights by the Creator, right? Held slaves, right? Held slaves. Was a slave owner. I think he had some 600 slaves. And let's not forget Sally. He would later pen about his disdain for black people, how inferior they were, how they stink. They didn't have the mind compatibility. But he slept with Sally. Okay? He slept with her. So again, man, what I'm saying is that man in his sinful ways is stupid. Okay? Is stupid. Verse 22, I have swept away your transgressions like a cloud, and your sins like a mist. Return to me, for I have redeemed you. Now, when he says swept away, in other words, the covering, the atonement, was always a covering. In other words, the sins never left in that respect. Man was always sinful, that never changed. And as Paul, or the writer of the Hebrews, would later say, the consciousness was never cleansed. But notice he says, return to me. Israel, they won't, but return to me. Verse 23, rejoice, heavens, for the Lord has acted. Shout, depths of the earth, break into singing, mountains, forests, and every tree in it. For the Lord has redeemed Jacob and glorifies himself through Israel. Okay. This is what the Lord, your Redeemer, who formed you from the womb, says. Now remember, he literally did that through Sarah. He says, I am Yahweh who made everything, who stretched out the heavens by myself, who alone spread out the earth. Now, here is a declaration. He doesn't give details. In other words, he doesn't tell us scientifically how he did this. He just declared, I did this. We can see through the acts of God that he has demonstrated that he is powerful. So my point is, we have no reason to doubt him. I know people do. So I acknowledge that. Verse 25, who destroyed the omens of the false prophets and makes fools of diviners, who confounds the wise and make their knowledge foolish. Now, go in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and 2, you see some of this language Paul used. Verse 26, who confirms the message of his servants and fulfills the counsel of his messengers. Now, let me just say this, who confirms the message of his servant. This is always the earmark of a true servant, of a true prophet, of a true apostle. God confirms the message, which is his message. Okay, he confirms that. Who says to Jerusalem, she will be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah, they will be rebuilt, and I will restore her ruins. Who says to the depths of the sea, be dry, I will dry up your rivers. Who says to Cyrus, my shepherd, he will fulfill all my pleasure. And says to Jerusalem, she will be rebuilt. Of the temple, its foundations will be laid. Now again, this is a very, 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 this prophecy here is about a little under 200 years before King Cyrus of the Medes in Persia. Again, when we get back to the prophecies of Daniel, when Daniel prophesies, it says the 70 weeks, his 70-week prophecy. And then he says from the issuing of the command to rebuild and restore Jerusalem. 70 weeks. So again, right here, you can almost say nearly 200 years before this issuing here, 200 years, Cyrus is already named here, and he's called by name. He's called by name. Who says to Cyrus, my shepherd, he will fulfill my pleasure, and says to Jerusalem, she will be rebuilt. And we say 200 years from that point, he issues that decree, and you can read about this during the time of Nehemiah, the books of Nehemiah and Ezra. Unbelievable prophecy right here. And again, from our perspective, we can see how God has spoken the end from the beginning. Our faith is built upon the fact that this is evidence that's already happened. This is why my faith is strengthened, because this has already happened. So do I believe Jesus is coming? Yes, I believe Jesus is coming because of what? God has already demonstrated and proven that his words always come to pass. All right, guys, certainly more on this when we get into the next chapter, because I'm going to talk about this more. All right, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. As always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.